Uh, Hi, I'm Dyonne. I'm a healer from Holland. And today with me again are Miriam, the philosopher from Sweden, and Joseph, a psychologist from Sweden. As you know, over the weeks, I love talking to both of them so much. They both come from a very different field, but we all intersect. And we have this main topic, which is called personal development. And every time we meet, we go in depth about one thing or the other thing. And this time I was very curious to dive into the world of emotions. And the reason why it comes up for me is as a healer, I notice a lot that spirituality can also have a very dark side when it's used in the wrong way. There are many people that use spirituality as a escapism or as a transcendence to not be here. They want to make astral voyages. They want to be in another world without embodying their world here, their life on Earth. And something that's nagging in a way already for a couple of years now for me is that how can I myself, also as a healer, work with people, give them treatments, train them for becoming a Reiki practitioner or master without having them bypass the emotional realm and not using spirituality for that bypass. So how can I help them also with the embodiment of their spirituality? And so I love to talk about that with you guys. And I like to refer, but we'll get to that later, to Carla McLaren, who's done both as well. So I resonate with her work a lot. And I'm curious about where you're coming from and how you look at this. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Joseph, do you want to start?
So, hello. Hello, Miriam from Gothenburg. And hello, Dyonne from Holland. It's very nice to be with you. And I, as a psychologist and also a bit healer, am very interested in this topic also because it's a topic that I also for many years have escaped from dealing with so much, but there is no way out right now. I feel it's because you cannot neglect the emotions that are because they are very important, because they are part of what you are and who you are, and you cannot dilute them or not take them part, because and I can see that also in the late year or something like this, that working also with my clients, is that also I can see that many people don't talk the truth or avoid it, more or less.
Yeah, if I may jump in there, Joseph, for you as a psychologist, you probably learned that a lot of people try to look at their emotion coming from the cognitive and trying to analyze it. And later on, I'm also curious with Miriam, because with philosophy, it's also, it can give you such amazing awareness, but it can also make you move away from dealing with the emotions at hand when you're philosophizing about it. So, yeah. So tell me more, both of you.
Yeah, I can really join into that, because what happens is that the minute you start to analyze it in your kind of head, you're getting lost of the emotional feelings, which is much deeper in the thing. You know, it's kind of more in the guts, and it's, or I would say it's more in the gut. The thing is, you're afraid to go there, or people are afraid, or me too in a way also, is that you don't want to hurt other people, you don't want to use, and you put some values on the emotions. You say, well, being angry or being too emotional is not so good, so I should put them down, and showing too much anger or feelings of distrust, or feeling of that you are not so satisfied, is not maybe something that you should show up or go out and do. But I'm not sure about that, because you shouldn't maybe put a value on your emotions and saying, well, these are your emotions. Just let them be there, because they are mirroring you and what you feel, and let them go out, because they won't kill. They only will show who you are, and that is the most important thing, because
that's the essence of being human, of becoming human, of developing into becoming a human.
Being a human, yes, it is being a human.
Because, and I'm very sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's a trap. Sometimes you go into in setting values on your emotions, saying, well, you shouldn't be so emotional about that, and maybe it will hurt somebody, but it is
because that's the cognition again. That's the cognition interfering with dealing with emotions. It's a judgment. It's the thinking, and yeah. And I think it's
you're judging yourself. Yes, you're judging yourself, and you're judging other people also. And that's, I would say, it's not so good. I would say, be more yourself. And I would say, if you put all the people as being in the value of accepting people the way they are, is not to make things more or less valuable. Try to put the people in, try to put them in the same kind of because otherwise you put down other people or you put up other people. That's how I feel it's good not to put values on your emotions.
Yes, and it is for us as because I'm also curious what Miriam has to say on this. In all three of our fields, it's important that we are a realm for that we hold space for it, or that we at least try to help move people to their emotions, or suggest for them. Well, it is about experiencing your emotions and not repressing them, and all three of us hold a certain responsibility for at least showing direction, sort of say. And I'm very curious, Miriam, how you do it as a philosopher when people come for your counsel or your coaching, how you go about with emotions, or how you direct, and what your take on this is as a philosopher altogether.
Yes. So I have about 20 different things that I want to say now.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Well, and all the space for you now.
and part of it is sort of speaking as a philosopher, and part is just speaking, telling my story, how it was for me. So I think I'll start with that, because I have always been someone who thinks and analyzes very easily. It's the first thing I do, and for a really long time. It's not like they're in schools now, in preschools, they get to name feelings all the time. That's what they work with all the time, naming feelings, and what is it, I am angry now, and things like that. And man, if I had got that opportunity, my life would have been different. Because and I spent, I mean, it's not many years ago that I stopped carrying around a little note with feelings named on them, because I didn't know what I was feeling. And so I took this note up. I had it in my wallet, and it had about, I had done some research, so I didn't just randomly pick feelings, but so I took like a list of feelings that are basic feelings and relational feelings, kind of thing. So, and and now that I'm looking back, I can see that the feeling that I had most trouble recognizing.
Can I ask here something? But just to understand this list of you had, it was written the feeling and then what it means, or something like this, or
just the feeling, just a list of feelings. So it said anger, sadness, or is that grief, anger, grief, anxiety, joy, pride, love. I don't really remember now. I suppose that's a good sign. But it had something like 7 or 10 or 12 feelings, you know, one of those magical numbers, I suppose. I don't really remember. But now that I'm looking back, and this is because I didn't know, and looking at, okay, so now I have several, I'll try to make this structured. Okay, so I'll just do it slowly for my own sake as well. So I didn't know what a feeling I was feeling, and I had to check on a list, and I had to, I mean, I stopped maybe 5 years ago. It's not a long time ago. I don't have that list anymore, because now I can sort of tell what my, and I also used to mix up other people's feelings with my feelings, and I didn't know who was feeling the feeling because I felt it, you know, so I didn't know whose feeling it was and where it originated. And now looking back, I can see that the feeling I had the most trouble identifying was anger. Mm-hmm. And now that since last summer I'm so interested in the Enneagram, I can see that, I mean, the Enneagram as a system sort of explains that everyone has this one particular feeling that they are avoiding, all the different 9 types. And for my types, it's definitely anger. So this just means that no connection to anger. I would start crying when I was angry, for example, and start crying for also when I was happy, angry, sad, you know, so I didn't know which feeling I had. So I've worked a lot on this, and philosophy is usually about starting by defining the concepts that we're talking about. And there, even though philosophy is a very mental thinking, analyzing, investigating with words activity, you can also have philosophy of whatever. So we have philosophy of emotions, and there's a philosopher called Robert Solomon that I read some books by. His books are called things like what the passions are really telling us, and the passion is this word, the ancient Greek word for, and you can just feel it's the same in my mind, at least, maybe in real life as well, but it's linked to pate and pathos, you know, this great thing that grabs you, you know, and so what our feelings and emotions are really telling us. And there's this idea also among other philosophical practitioners, like Norwegian philosophers called Helge Svare and Henning Herrestad. They've written an excellent book where they call feelings and emotions friends who wish us well and who want to tell us something. Yes. So when I am really jealous, for example, it tells me here is something that I greatly value, and I want to have it in my life. What can I do? What can I do to create, to understand this, my life circumstance and myself as an active agent, for example? Mm-hmm. Yes, so I could really talk for the rest of the day about this, and I have taken lots of notes. I can also say that I watched Carla McLaren on YouTube yesterday, and she talked about empathy. And she distinguished between, she said that to her, there's a difference between being empathetic and empathic. And what she meant by empathic, it's the kind of thing that I was describing about myself earlier, that I didn't know whose feeling I was feeling because I was feeling directly the other person's feeling. So that to be empathic requires that you develop and grow a personal development, emotional intelligence development, that you need to understand and whose feelings you're feeling. You need to understand discernment and boundaries.
Yes.
And empathetic, that's the more common one, where we are able to sit next to someone who is suffering or is very joyful, and we can hold space for them, guide them, and so forth, and be part of their experience, but not in that way where you are becoming the other person and you no longer know, you know. So that's that it carries a great responsibility to grow. Otherwise, you will go through life not knowing who you are. Yeah, that's a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
But I can relate so much to what you say. Also, my personal journey, I also was not aware of my feelings and senses. There was a long time that I had a coping mechanism of dissociation and only used my head for survival. And for me as well, it was, I had a feeling wheel. I had words like you and related words or synonyms, and I had to learn to discern what was inside of me. And the work of Carla McLaren, well, I did homeschooling for myself, but it helped me a lot as well, because I was one of those people that had such a huge inner critic. I was always my biggest bully. I've never been bullied at school, but due to certain circumstances, I thought I protected myself by creating an inner critic and an inner bully, and very perfectionistic all the time. But it never, it always kept me from my personal emotions. So I wasn't aware of that inner landscape. And especially the work of Carla McLaren, where she says, well, you can judge your emotions, indeed, what Joseph also said, but they are not to be judged. They are to be experienced, and they carry a message. And Miriam, same as you say, jealousy tells you something. But for me, for instance, well, they all do, but for me, for instance, anxiety has been a very, how do you say, time-consuming business for me, because I was very involved in always feeling anxious and hypervigilant. And when I learned from her books and she has a very nice deck of cards that you can work with. When I learned from her anxiety, well, fear actually, it's not about being hypervigilant because there's danger. She says it wants your attention, it wants your focus, but for the good sense. So like if you feel anxious about something, channel all your energy to that, allow it, look it in the face, and ask yourself what is required in this moment. And that's all actually anxiety wants, what fear wants. And it was so new for me to not avoid or not to dissociate from my feeling. And it's like, okay, so what does my fear want now? Okay, and it could be little things, or, you know, like, okay, like now it was snowing, or I can be anxious because of the weather, it's slippery outside. How do I take care of myself? Actually, all anxiety wants is for you to look at it and see what it really needs instead of walking away. And her work is so rich in that with every emotion, she talks about the gifts it contains and how you can investigate that. And for me, that's so important, that emotional development, because now I finally understand my emotional landscape better. And I also don't need my feeling wheel. I had a wheel and I can let that go now. And with certain more complex emotions, I might even have to write a bit when they're more intertwined. Like she also gives suggestions for confusion. Confusion literally is confusing, but why? And so she helps you untangle that. And it's amazing. And yeah, I think it's very important for personal development in the end to develop emotionally. So yeah,
I have nothing more to say to that, more than saying maybe I was very fortunate to have been in kind of deep emotional states, and I had to deal with them, and so that's how it is. I have to deal with my emotions and to take care of myself in the emotions. That's part of, but still, I say I get confused sometimes because there are some values in the society. You have to be more in the emotion of being listening to other people and getting it in to be and in that case, I would say sometimes I say, don't be so bloody listening in too much of your kind of being. Try to listen to yourself more and what you feel towards the other person. It's more of not being true to yourself and not diluting your part in being so emotional that you lose yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of universal how people I mean, as humankind, we have a tendency to help others, but when it's at our own expense, or when we fill in stories, you know, like, oh, they probably expect this, they probably want this, that's outside of yourself, and that's actually when the confusion occurs.
Yes.
Because when you look inside and you feel inside, as you say, there's your truth, your personal truth, not the universal truth, but the personal truth. And you always have to work with your personal truth to evolve, to develop. Right, Miriam?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, you have to work on your personal truth to develop.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Beautiful, right?
Yeah. Maybe that's the good ending to the first episode.
Yes.
Yes.
Love that. Thank you.